And so I'd like to welcome Kevin to the show. Kevin, how you doing?
Great, Keith. Great to see you as always.
All right. So what I'd like to do before we get into talking about Solesence, tell my listeners, because we're live on Facebook and hopefully hundreds of folks are looking at you. Who is Kevin Cureton? Tell us a little bit about your background and how is there a connection between your youth and what you're doing now?
That's an interesting question, the way you put that. The connection between my youth and what I'm doing now probably is about creativity and innovation. And, when I was a youth back in the dark ages, it's many, many years ago, there weren't a lot of role models that looked like us. Certainly, that was one of the challenges that we faced. But, we would see other types of role models. And, I was always interested in a few people that my parents had put in front of me. Probably one of my biggest role models was George Washington Carver.
Okay.
Dr. Carver, if everybody knows who he is, he turned entire industries around. He took the peanut industry, which was critical to Georgia way back when as an agricultural crop, and he turned it into an industry. He created over 700 products just from peanuts. So he, through that effort, transformed what would have been an ailing economy in Georgia into a thriving economy. And so that became sort of one of my points of inspiration for what I have attempted to do in my well over 30 years of work experience now. Background-wise, I have an engineering background. I started my work at Carnegie Mellon and graduated from there with a chemical engineering degree. And then over time, probably want to say about 6 years later, went to our alma mater, University of Chicago.
Right.
And got my MBA there. And through that time, spent a lot of time primarily in chemical industry, but actually always related to consumer-facing products. So, people don't even think about it, but your laundry detergent is a chemical.
That's true. That's very true.
It happens to be a very safe and effective chemical, but it's designed by people with backgrounds similar to mine and chemists and other people to be useful for consumers. And so even at the beginning of my career, I worked for a company called Borden and was involved in business planning, really developing, everybody knows what Elmer's glue is. I was involved in that business, and that company had a number of other consumer-facing businesses. Obviously, their foods business, but other chemical-related businesses that kind of got me started in the direction that I am now. Fast forwarding over the last several years, I started in the beauty industry actually working with a company called AMCOL International at the time. It later, after I left, was acquired by MTI. But in that role, I was actually in corporate development by that time. I had gone through a couple of different roles in my career, primarily headed more toward corporate development and helping to build new businesses. Had done at that time one stint in entrepreneurship myself. And so was looking at, hey, what else can I do? And then joined AMCOL. And in that role, I ended up helping to found a business. That was really the first business that I built in the beauty industry called AMCOL Health and Beauty Solutions. Okay. And that business basically was a dermatology-focused business. We did a couple acquisitions to help accelerate that growth. But through that, we really were focused on skin health, in that case, using retinoids to help to address fine lines, wrinkles, photo damage, acne. So we were really focused on a particular segment of the industry in terms of what we offered.
So I didn't know you had such a rich background. It makes sense because I forgot that you were a chemical engineer and you're comfortable with on the chemistry side of things. And so as as we shift into our discussion with Solesence, can you tell me the journey of how Solesence was created? Because I believe it's a subsidiary of a company. And so there's your creativity again. Can you talk a little bit about how it was birthed or founded, or created?
Great question again, Keith. So I joined the founding company, as we now refer to it, is Nanophase. Nanophase Technologies has been around for 32 years. Came out of, again, it's always interesting how these connections happen in the world, but it came out of Argonne National Labs, which and was really connected, obviously, to our alma mater again.
Another UFC.
Predating me.
Right.
There we go. But the company had invented a new way of making materials, basically. When I joined the company, it had been around for about 20 years. And the reason I was brought in was to try and help figure out what we were going to do when we grew up. The company had done some really incredible things from a technology standpoint, but hadn't commercially succeeded to the level that our shareholders wanted us to achieve. And so after a few years of getting started, we figured out that we needed to find a path. And that path happened to be really connected right back to the beauty industry, an industry where I already had, by that time,
Success.
Close to 15 years of experience and had built a successful organization. And so had the right foundation from a commercial standpoint to do it. We just needed the right invention. And lo and behold, that came along.
And so the journey to, the company was started in 2016, 2017. The early years, once the right invention came along, was it easy? Because right now you guys are doing some pretty innovative things working with companies that I'd like to get into. But let's talk about the early years.
I would say probably, as many entrepreneurs know, and entrepreneurs have even a unique experience as well, in that you're really trying to change the behavior of an existing organization. So you have some inertia that is challenging. You're really trying to reinvent an organization that already exists. And so you've got two things that I think are beneficial. One, you do have a foundation if you're looking at it properly, from which you can build. You've got people, you've got capabilities that you can utilize. And if you've done a good job, you've got a committed, I'll call it sponsor. And in our case, it was our shareholders and specifically our board of directors to really help us move forward. But one of the things we like to say is that in that first few years of existence, we sold air. We sold the idea of what we were, because we didn't have it yet. We were still building that. And so it was really important for us to figure out, what was going to be really compelling to the marketplace. And quite honestly, it came back to having had some experiences from the Amcol Health and Beauty Solutions business to the Solesence business, where in fact we called on those people in our Rolodex to help us get off the ground.
And so when you think about the journey, that was 2017, 2018, 2019, and now the pandemic hits. Did you ever sit in your office and say, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or did it take on a different path?
In fact, that was exactly what happened. We were poised and really excited about what 2020 was going to bring to us. We had just really, by 2019, we had just kind of gotten our feet under us. We had established some really good opportunities with some meaningful brands. As is the nature of our company, some of our brand partners, like what we call our launch brand partner, Color Science, allows us to use their name. Some of our other brand partners do not. But we had one major brand partner.
Now, meaning, just so that the listeners understand, when they don't allow you to use it, you could be behind the success of some major brands. They just won't let you use their name. Is that what I'm hearing? Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is the nature of it, is that they're trying to protect their secret sauce, right? And what we're doing is building products for them and manufacturing those products. So we do the development, we do, and in collaboration, particularly with some of our brand partners. In some cases, we build the product completely, and they come in and say, hey, I love that product. I want to go forward with it. And then we are the manufacturer, and we supply it to the market for them, typically through their 3PLs or distribution. And in some cases, we do some fulfillment as well.
Wow. So let's get into that. So from the very beginning, was the contract manufacturing part the idea in the beginning, or did or did it evolve into that?
So when we first started the business, when we started it, and the vision of what we wanted to do really isn't about the manufacturing. The manufacturing itself is important. Don't get me wrong. We are and want to continue to be a best-in-class manufacturer. But really what drives beauty is the product. And what drives our point of difference is the innovation behind the product. And so we are extremely focused on building the best and the most beautiful products that people want to use again and again. And that served as the foundation. What manufacturing enables us to do is monetize that innovation, that technology. And that's really been our the calling card. You mentioned earlier that our number 2 position, we actually in 2023, Fast Company, as you know, they have their most innovative companies in the world, and we were number 2 in beauty in 2023. So it was a real milestone moment for us to say, hey, this company has established itself as one of the leading innovators in beauty, and really on a global basis. So that's been an exciting milestone for us, but really serves as kind of the jumping off point for the future as well.
And your products are world class. I mean, at the top of the list of the highest quality. And the reason I bring this point up is as I was preparing for this podcast segment, I did some research, and I ended up talking with my daughter, she's a model. She uses a lot of beauty care products. And she reminded me, she said, Dad, I used a product that broke me out. And she says, I stay away from those brands. And I know that, one of the things that you guys have is you don't have those issues because you guys do extensive testing. Can you talk a little bit about, I'm sure you have some pretty interesting partners that you can't name that come knocking on your door. What's the...
Yeah, it's an example. We have, I mentioned Color Science, but, also Kinlo. We know Naomi Osaka her brand is one of our partners. We partner with Credo, who is the clean beauty leader. We partner with Relevant and Bloom Effects. And there's a number of brands that we've partnered with that we're able to point out. And one of the things that you'll find is that what we've tried to do that is unique, and we've been successful in doing, and it was part of the reason that we won the award with Fast Company, or the recognition with Fast Company, I should say, is that we've made what we do in beauty, skin health-based beauty, which is primarily SPF-based beauty, mineral SPF-based beauty, acceptable for all skin tones, textures, types, such that even the deepest of skin tones can use our products and still have a beautiful result in terms of how it looks, how it feels, and how it works for them. As well as the lightest of skin tones can use our products and have the same kind of beautiful effect in terms of how.
I love how you put it out there so politically well. You're talking about the variations in skin tone from the darkest folks to the whitest people. And so, I love that, because as a guy, and as I've gotten older, I've paid more attention to my skin. My wife and other women in my life have always paid attention to their skin. I asked this question when I did some research, and there are so many different brands that are entering the space. Fenty, it seems like you have a new resurgence of African-American brands because it's been paying attention to what you said, the skin tones. And so talk a little bit more about the scientific side. So your company, you guys have a mineral-based approach, because I don't really think people understand it. And they understand lipstick and stuff like that, but take them a little deeper, because there's science behind all of that.
Yeah. So at the heart of the matter is that some years ago, there was this little company everybody knows called L'Oreal, right?
Yeah.
And they came out and said that the biggest impact on premature aging was UV damage. And so with their statement, and this goes back now to, I want to say, the early 2000s, and their research really helped to solidify that one of the number one thing you can do prevent premature aging, dark spots, blotchiness, wrinkles, and all of the things that you don't want to have happen, in addition to skin cancer, is to protect your skin from UV damage. So there's a lot of ways to go about that. And we'll always say the best way to do it is the one that you'll wear every day. But what has been commonly recognized as the safest way to do it is to use mineral sunscreen actives. So what we've done, Solesence, has been to reinvent what mineral sunscreen actives do. Long time, for a long part of history, those mineral sunscreen actives were not attractive on skin. They would leave ghosting and a really unattractive kind of grayish cast to skin. And what we've been able to do is turn those materials into being very transparent on your skin, regardless of what your skin tone may be. And in doing so, we also have the only technology that also will prevent your skin from being damaged by pollution and the free radicals caused by pollution, and to boost the performance of your formula in terms of the antioxidants that might be used in your formula. So we'll protect your skin and we'll protect your formula, and will therefore improve the antioxidants and the results that come from them. So that was the technology behind it. And then what was key is to make sure that technology, while being effective, was also beneficial, not just beneficial to health, but useful and attractive to use, that people would want to use those products again and again and again. And so that's where a lot of our formulation work comes into play with the wonderful team that we have that does that kind of work.
Have you guys ever considered entering selling your own branded product? Maybe you do that now. I'm not sure.
We partner very closely with our brands. We don't want them to ever feel like we're going to compete against them. And what we want them to do is feel like, hey, we're your partner. And, by working with a wide range of brands, we're pretty close to the consumer. We're as close as we can get without selling our brand, selling our own brand, and therefore achieving some of the same benefits of being a branded company without being a branded company from a commercial standpoint. And therefore we have, over 70 different brands that we work with now on a global basis. And we're able to continue to do that and increase the number of brands that we work with because we're not competing with them.
And are you finding that folks are beating your door down? I mean, because when I visit your website and folks that are listening, I encourage you, if you're interested in this space, to go look up solesence.com. Interesting story, interesting company, because they can help you bring a product to market. So when folks, when your brand partners find you, what's been the biggest surprise? I mean, are you surprised at who's knocking on the door? Or have you had to go knock on their doors? Perhaps you did that in the early years, not so much now. What is it like?
Exactly. I mean, we stay pretty active in the industry. We are out at a lot of trade events. But what we do and are blessed to say is that, we have a lot of inbound where brands are coming to us and working with us because they know of what we've accomplished and how we've worked closely with other brands. This industry, as big as it is still pretty small in terms of just the network that exists. So folks will know. I mean, we're unique in that we are the only brand company that is both an innovator and a manufacturer that is specifically serving UV protection and beauty products, skincare and makeup products with UV benefits.
Wow. And so what's been the most surprising thing thus far for you?
I would say the reaction that we get, this is one of the things that I will tell you that I get surprised by. First of all, I will mention that we work with brands that are startups all the way to global brands. So we continue to do that. We have an entry point that allows us to work with startups. What's been, I guess, two things that have been really exciting and surprising has been the success that we've had with our minority-owned brand partners. They've really been having some tremendous success through COVID and beyond. But also, I would say the reaction that people have when they use our products. And, we know they're pretty special, but you never get when you tell somebody that, you're going to send them or share with them one of the products that you make, and the reaction, the joy that you see out of their face is pretty exciting and fun.
And, I love hearing that because I tell you, in my life, I've always been on the innovation side, working on new things, new market entries. You guys have different paths. And I guess, it seems like you can bring a product to market. They can knock on your door and they can have a product out in three months. And then they can customize it and have it out a little longer. That's got to be a little taxing, because if you're working at 70 branded companies, all different personalities, all trying to differentiate in the marketplace, I'm not trying to have you give away your special sauce, but I hope this podcast and other things you guys doing, next time we talk, you have 140 partners. What's the approach? I mean, is there how do you deal with such complexity?
Well, that's first of all, it starts with the team, as you know, Keith. I mean, you've worked with us before, and you know that the quality of the team is fundamental to having a successful organization. And that is really where we start. And we've got a great team that enables all of this to happen. So we start there. And then, quite honestly, we make sure that we treat each brand as their own unique self, what they want, what is for them. And I can tell you, oftentimes we'll hear this is one of the statements. I probably shouldn't say it, but I will. But we get a statement from many brand partners that say to us, here we are with 70 brands with, a couple hundred products in the market. And they'll say to us, there are no good mineral sunscreens in the market. And we'll say, okay.
Wow.
So what they really mean is that from their point of view,
got you.
There's no, because each brand, each person, and that's the uniqueness of beauty, is that each person has a different perspective of what is good to them.
Gotcha.
And that's why there's literally thousands of different brands and thousands of different products, because it's such a specialized business where, uniquely someone wants to find something that they love. And, there's lots of opportunities out there. So there's no shortage of, the good news is there's no shortage of ways to therefore differentiate the products that we're making, because we tell the story of the brand itself. What we try and say to each brand is that the product that we create for you should be the physical manifestation of your brand, not of brand A or brand B, but your brand. And if you don't feel that way, then we haven't succeeded in what we're trying to accomplish with you. And therefore, because everybody's an individual, we always seem to find a unique way to bring a product forward for every brand.
Phenomenal. Because that is a great segue into my next question. Because as I was doing my research and getting into consumer preferences, one of the things that I know, and it's interesting because I'm a boomer and a millennial and a Z folks, there's this push for sustainability. I used to think that wasn't real, but it's a real phenomenon. And because I talked to several women preparing for this podcast, and they unprovoked said, I look for products that are sustainable. I was like, wow. And so my question to you is, as you guys are developing your products, how are you responding to consumer preferences? Are you ahead of them? Are you working with them as your brand partners come to you? From a chemical engineer standpoint, maybe it's just easy to pivot, but, consumer preferences change like that sometimes.
No question. I would say there's two pieces to that, Keith. One is that skin health is skin health. Foundationally, even regardless of the preference someone might have for how something feels or looks or smells or what have you, the foundation of skin health and what keeps people's skin healthy remain the same. Gotcha. So we try and stay true to that regardless of what we're bringing to market from a preference standpoint. And then, we spend quite a number of dollars. We spend millions of dollars. I mean, not a million, I mean millions of dollars every year on R&D. It's a big part of our investment. We spend, a lot of money in terms of investing in market research and understanding the direction that the industry is headed. And so all of those investments are so that we can stay just ahead of where we believe the industry is going. It is our goal to always be, a step ahead of even where we are today and figure out how we could be better than what we do. How can we take the next step in terms of how we provide the benefits that we can provide from a skin health standpoint. So it is an ongoing effort. At the end of the day, though, brands have their vision. And what we try and then do is take all of what we've done and synthesize that with those brands so that they can bring something special to the market.
Gotcha. And so your competitors probably are watching everything you guys are doing. Is it a long list of competitors, short list of competitors? Because I'm not sure. I know from a developmental standpoint, it's, chemically speaking, I'm not sure how to look at that point. And so help me out. When you think of your competitors, you don't have to name them. Is it a long list?
So this is always an interesting conversation because we have the same one with being the University of Chicago grad. You would ask this question because that's exactly the question our board members ask, right? And I have a kind of I'll try and make it a simple way of answering it. First of all, the beauty industry, there is a space for everyone. There is a lot of co-opetition, as I like to refer to it, that, they may be a competitor, but it isn't the same type of competition that you might see in other industries, in part because it is such a segmented, fragmented industry. an example, one of the things that we learned from one of the leading publications in the industry is WWD, Women's Wear Daily. They have a magazine called Beauty Inc., and that is specifically focused on the beauty industry. We were just at the CEO Summit, and one of the things they said in the 25 years since that summit has been around, it went from the top 10 companies in the industry holding 90%, or the top 10 brands, I should say, holding 90% share of the business, to the top 10 brands now holding 30%.
Wow.
So what that tells you is that this business has really been segmented pretty substantially. There's lots of room for collaboration and cooperation. That said, there are absolutely companies out there that make sun care related products or UV products or beauty products with UV protection in them. What we do, though, we have IP that is on a global basis, is unique. And it protects us, and it protects our brand partners too, in being able to you can't be copied. You can be mimicked, but you can't be copied. Right. And so that's how we view it. There are literally we think there's meaningful about 600 different contract manufacturers on a global basis that are of meaningful scale, meaning that they're not a smaller $1 million operation, but they're operating at tens to hundreds of millions of dollars on a global basis. So there's lots of companies out there like us, but that from a manufacturing standpoint, but we think we're one of one when it comes from an innovation standpoint.
And I can appreciate the board asking that question, because M&A activity, value proposition, you guys might be gobbled up. It's always something, but let's, in the few minutes that we have remaining, I want to switch to the entrepreneur. You mentioned something. I'm an entrepreneur, been doing it for a number of years now. For those folks that are interested in entering the industry, they got an idea, they're dissatisfied with what they go to the store and try to purchase. How should they best engage you? What advice would you give those young, I won't call them young, but just entrepreneurs looking to enter into this space?
Use the for young in that they're young to the industry, or young, not necessarily in age, but just their involvement, right? And so what we start with is make sure you understand who you are and why you have permission to operate in the industry. What has the industry said? Hey, you matter and you have a place. If you don't come with that understanding, then it's very difficult, almost impossible for us to build a product for you, because you haven't decided what matters to you.
Wow.
And so it really has to start there. It has to start by, hey, this is why we are here. This is why we exist. This is the message that we want to deliver to the industry. This is why we should be operating here, and this is the permission that the marketplace has given us to operate based upon that gap that they see. And we go through that whole process. We work with them to build what's called a product development brief that will translate that into the features and characteristics of that product. And then based upon that, the path forward for building a product that, again, is the manifestation of your brand is straightforward. If you haven't done that, and we've been in that place too, where there are brands that say, I believe in this, and then I believe in that, and then it's almost impossible to close that gap.
Gotcha.
And create a product that will have a meaningful impact in the industry.
And have you been surprised? You mentioned earlier you're delightfully surprised at some of the minority brands that are out there. Any particular story, or you don't have to mention any that either good or bad that shock? Well, not bad, but good that shock. You want to talk about?
Yeah, I can't mention the specific brand, but I will tell you that we worked very closely during COVID, and COVID was interesting because I believe that COVID offered, like you mentioned, a unique opportunity for folks to really re-engage in skin health and skincare in a way that in part was driven by this medium, right? You're looking at
Yes.
yourself on the screen all day long. You're like, oh man, look, your hair's a little shiny. So and so at any rate, but it did help to drive the activity, and then that combination of awareness of equity and the need for equity in the beauty business then enabled some very capable beauty entrepreneurs to just grab a hold. It was like an opportunity was created and they've grabbed a hold and they've done a really nice job. Some of them were at the Essence Fest that just passed. And so if you've seen brands there, there's a good chance that one or two of those brands might have been our brand partners. So hopefully you've participated and supported them in their experience at Essence Fest.
Well, Kevin, my last question is, this space you talked about evolving. We know it's growing. Is it, I can appreciate your assistance on understanding what your why is as you enter this space. If you figure out your why, is it a hard industry to break into?
I would say increasingly challenging, only because there's been so much entrance. But I think that it depends on what your vision is and what your goal is. I mean, direct to consumer still works. Being able to get to market through this type of medium, through the social media channels that exist, those are the right places to start. Quite honestly, getting through retail is very difficult initially because they want to know that people want to buy your product. So having the commitment, having the story, having the desire to drive forward through a direct-to-consumer platform first so that you can prove the value of your why is the right place to start. And there are companies like ourselves out there that are willing to help you get to that place.
Last question, and I'll let you speak to this as you see. What do you, when you look in your crystal ball, what do you see? Where do you see what's the future look like for the beauty industry?
Continually to be more inclusive, to continue to be more health oriented, wellness oriented, and really continuing to grow. I think it is one of the platforms, when you look at what's happened in industry over the last year to two, where growth has slowed for many industries, it has not. The unit over unit growth for beauty continues.
Wow.
And I think that's largely because it offers such a benefit and increasingly a benefit for consumers. It helps you to feel better about yourself and to look better for yourself, but even more importantly, be healthier, a healthier version of yourself.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Cureton, the Chief Operating Officer at Solesence. The name is solesence.com. Thanks for listening to The Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Keith D. Terry. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support this podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on my YouTube channel at Keith D. Terry. If you want to recommend a guest, please email me at info@terryperformancegroup.com. This has been produced by your host and Jade Productions.